move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we do have, as I understand, one item of business. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, if you would please, Allison, would appreciate it, just to update us on the item of business and
Okay.
whether the Sheriff's Department and all the good paperwork's in order.
It is. Our applicant tonight is the CVS Pharmacy at 11946 Kingston Pike here in Farragut, and all of their paperwork is in order, and the staff recommends approval of their beer permit.
Anybody from CVS here? You want to make any remarks?
Discussion among the board? Okay.
I
entertain a
move
motion.
approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay? Okay, it passes, and there is no other business of the beer board, and with that said, we will be adjourned.
All right, that means it's now time for the Farragut Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting for June 14th, 2012. We'll start by rising for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Before we start, I want to take a moment to recognize two special little ladies in the audience there. They happen to be our granddaughters. Shaylee is from Kingsport. She's almost 5 years old. And Mabel is formerly from Atlanta, but now, regrettably, she's from Seattle. Glad to have them here. Y'all want to come down here, take a picture? I should point out we have two more granddaughters. They couldn't be here because they're 6 months old.
They're so cute.
Yep.
It looked like a sister.
I was getting between those girls. Yeah, they want to be next to each other.
There you go.
All right.
By the way, they're here this week to go to the First Baptist Concord Quest, their version of Vacation Bible School. And it'll be memorable. Next item is approval of the agenda.
Mayor, I'm sorry. Mayor, I have one item I'd like to delete off the agenda tonight. That's item 7C. That is approval of contract 2013-07 Voice over Internet Protocol phone system. The contract's not quite ready yet, and so that's not in your packet tonight. We'll have that on the next agenda for you. That's the only changes that I would request for tonight's
Are we
agenda.
changing the phone system to internet-based?
We are.
Okay. Next item is the mayor's report, and we have a presentation, right?
That's correct.
It's for
I'll take this, Mayor.
the AmeriCorps year-end summary.
I'm sure you all aware that for the last almost a year, the town has been blessed by having an AmeriCorps service member working in our stormwater program. Josh Cunningham is with us tonight. For the last 10 months, he's been in our stormwater program, and he's done a terrific job. And unfortunately, his time is coming to a close, and he will be so sorely missed. Josh, we wish you the best. Josh is going to give you a kind of an update on what he has been up to over the last year. But first, Jason Scott, who is our stormwater coordinator and has really coordinated all of the work that Josh has been up to. He's with us tonight to tell us just briefly what AmeriCorps is, and I'll point out that Jason is a 2-year alum himself of AmeriCorps, and I wish I had done it myself when I was his age. But Jason, come on up and talk to us.
Okay. I'm just going to take a couple minutes of your time before I let Josh get into the real details of the work that he's done, just to talk about the logistics of AmeriCorps and what it is, a little bit of the history, and the impact it makes on communities. In 2011, there were over 500,000 applicants for just 80,000 AmeriCorps service positions around the country. This is on average just over 6 applicants per available position, which for me, I think suggests that the demand to serve and to develop meaningful job experience is both a reflection of our traditional American values of selfless service to our communities, as well as a reflection of the economic times in which we live. The economic conditions in which hardworking young people with college educations struggle to secure meaningful employment is the same environment in which governments like our own see increasing demands for service, while at the same time often seeing decreasing opportunities for funding. The AmeriCorps National Service Program leverages increasingly limited public dollars into maximum positive outcomes for the local community, so it's a really good value. Service members provide low-cost, high-yield, boots-on-the-ground support to their communities, and they do it with passion for the issues at hand. In this case, it's water quality, or the environment, which is the work area in which Josh works. Josh came to the town of Farragut in August of 2011 after completing a term of service with AmeriCorps NCCC, which is the National Civilian Community Corps, which is based on the Civilian Conservation Corps of the 1930s. Over the course of his year, Josh has brought an infectious passion for service and a robust sense of creativity that has enhanced the Stormwater Matters program's ability to reach the public. And I'll let Josh speak in greater detail on those things. With us tonight, we actually have representatives from the Knoxville Area Community Action Committee, CAC, and that's actually the organization that applies to the national grant that brings the largest contingency of AmeriCorps members in the entire state of Tennessee to the Knoxville area, so we're really blessed with that. This year, I think it's 40. The past couple years, it's been 40, and there's really ambitious goals to increase that to 60, 80 at the end of this current grant cycle. And one thing I want to do real quick is read the AmeriCorps pledge before I go ahead and turn it over to Josh, just because I think it really speaks towards the values and the ideals that are held by AmeriCorps service members. I will get things done for America to make our people safer, smarter, and healthier. I will bring Americans together to strengthen our communities. Faced with apathy, I will take action. Faced with conflict, I will seek common ground. Faced with adversity, I will persevere. I will carry this commitment with me this year and beyond. I'm an AmeriCorps member, and I will get things done. And with that, I'll turn it over to Josh. Thank you.
Well, hello, everybody. Thanks for having me tonight. In case you missed it, I'm the Josh that they've been talking about. Thank you, Jason, for a great introduction. And in case any of you, after all that great information, is wondering what exactly is AmeriCorps, this symbol I'm wearing here, for me it's summed up in a quote after Sergeant Shriver and John F. Kennedy finished their development of the Peace Corps and were announcing it to a nation. John F. Kennedy said, "The logic of the Peace Corps is that someday we are going to bring it home to America." In my opinion, that is the embodiment of AmeriCorps. Peace Corps does such great work with education, with the environment, social issues, and poverty. That's exactly what AmeriCorps is doing here in our country today. And that's what I like to pride myself in being a part of. If you'll take a minute, I'd like to do a little PowerPoint that I put together just to go over some of the highlights of my AmeriCorps year here in the town of Farragut. So there I am, dressed as a skeleton and wearing a life jacket in the middle of the Tennessee River. It's a good starting point to jump off into what my year has been all about. It's been all about water quality, it's been a little bit whimsical, a little bit crazy, and a whole lot of fun. So again, I've been the water quality assistant for the Town of Farragut Stormwater Matters program, and I've been here since August. This program is a 10-month term. My very first year of AmeriCorps, I served in the National Civilian Community Corps branch of AmeriCorps, like Jason said, which is based off of the Civilian Conservation Corps that helped this country recover during the Depression. I primarily worked as a wildland firefighter in the El Dorado National Forest in Northern California. I, of course, moved here with the AmeriCorps seal on my shirt to the Knoxville area. And my baby and the entirety of this is Turkey Creek. If I have to sum up my job in one word, it's taking care of Turkey Creek in a short phrase. So why after a year of wildland firefighting, why after another year of AmeriCorps did I end up in the town of Farragut? Well, it's because I knew three things. I knew I wanted to do AmeriCorps again. I knew that I wanted to do environmental service, and I knew that I wanted my mom to stop asking me when I'd move back to the East Coast. Hence, Farragut was a perfect opportunity to do something I really cared about in an area I really cared about and have an adventure along the way. We're about to cover up what is the summary of the AmeriCorps that AmeriCorps has done work-wise here in the town for the past year. Since I'm your first ever AmeriCorps member, this is really less of a accumulation of what AmeriCorps has done and more of what I like to call Joshua-palooza. So if it seems like I'm patting myself on the back, it's probably because I am. So bear with me.
You deserve it.
My first goal, I'd say the overarching project that dominated my work hours for the year was inlet mapping. In short, it was creating GPS points for all of our stormwater inlets, aka storm drains, here within the entirety of the town borders. When I came here, I was told that my goal by the end of the year was to map quadrant 1 of the town, which you see in the northeastern section there. You'll note that it is marked 2011-2012. That was my one goal for the year, was to map all the storm drain inlets within that quadrant of the town in my 10-month reign. Therefore, the AmeriCorps that came in 2012 and served through 2013 would map number 2. The 2013-2014 AmeriCorps member would map 3. And 2014-2015 would finish up and the entirety of the town would be mapped. I'm proud to announce that I did indeed map the entirety of Quadrant 1. I had a little bit of leftover time, so I want you to know I went ahead and took care of number 2 as well. Seeing that how much I enjoyed working outdoors and how adept I'd become at working the GPS system, I went ahead and did number 3. And just for good measure, I went ahead and mapped the rest of the town. So I apologize for the next 3 AmeriCorps members who will not get to have this as a project.
He was really good at it, by the way.
So we managed to knock out something that was required in our stormwater permit. Not only did we knock out this one quadrant, but we managed to get it all the way caught up in 2015. And we did that within our 2011-2012 year. So the total number of stormwater inlets that I assessed and mapped were 3,387. So not only do we now have a comprehensive map of all the inlets that are within the town of Farragut, but all of these have been assessed for their health, have been noted for illicit discharges, noted for needing replacement. All of them have undergone a diagnostical check to check the health and how they're affecting water quality. So the total number of drains that I flagged for health reasons were 45, which is a very small number considering it was 3,387 drains. This could be anything from a broken grate to sedimentation that was entering the drain. The total number of illicit discharges that were recorded, again, this could be sedimentation, was just 24 out of 3,387 drains. Another large part of my job had me donning waders and going into the middle of Turkey Creek, meanwhile falling down multiple times. And this was dry weather screening. This is where I would go out in the stream and search for discharge points, as you see in this pipe right here. I'd like to remind you, all these pictures that I have are taken along my journey here in the town of Farragut, so they're all local photos. Going through 48 hours after it rains, there's been no precipitation, you go through and make sure that there's no pipes discharging anything into the creek. The total number of discharge points I collected were 212. This could be anything from gutter systems going out to pipes that you see here. I did come across pipes that were putting out water for various reasons along this journey of the 212. I ended up mapping the entirety of the area that was given to me. And the number of active discharges mapped were 12 discharges. And what kind of things was I testing for when I was going through these? Turbidity, chlorine, ammonia, copper, phenols, detergent, and pH. I'm happy to report that none of these testing results raised any red flags. Another part of my job here as the AmeriCorps for the Stormwater Matters program was managing our Adopt a Stream program. Through my Adopt a Stream coordination, we've removed 1,470 pounds of refuse from Turkey Creek. Part of this, something I felt very passionate about, was negating erosion along the bank of Turkey Creek. The way that I went about that is gifting trees to the community. We went out to Campbell Station Park and planted trees. We also gave trees away to the community. In sum, we have 350 more trees here within the town of Farragut. Here on this whimsical slide, you'll see everything from unicorns to Lady Gaga to a T-Rex. This is part of my education and outreach campaign for recycling. Recycling is a grant requirement for all AmeriCorps members here working for the CAC AmeriCorps. I took care of everything from cardboard, aluminum, paper, plastic, steel, glass, and electronic waste here in the town of Farragut through special events, through weekly town hall recycling. In total, 2,720 pounds of trash have been escorted by my tiny Nissan Versa to the recycling place to get all that taken care of. Just to go back to some of the signs that you see
That was
there.
just from Town Hall, do you think?
This is from the town hall and from special events.
Really?
The posters I created primarily for special events. They were a big hit. I unveiled them at Picnic on the Pike this year, and people liked them so much, I decided to spread them around. So now you will see these, there's 500 copies on the UT campus, and as of 2013, they will become permanent recycling bin wrappers for the University of Tennessee. So my key word in life is whimsy. That's what I like to bring to every project that I go into. A lot of this goes into my education and outreach work. And as my AmeriCorps supervisors would know, I have an affinity for sometimes dressing up and doing whimsical, crazy things as part of my education and outreach. Here you will see me at the University of Tennessee as the character I like to call Recyclosaurus, who helped to coordinate the Recyclemania Olympics on the UT campus with some of my fellow AmeriCorps. On a water quality stance, and my favorite whimsical creature, here is the river unicorn, a whimsical creation as part of our I Am Water Pollution campaign. It's a mythological creature, of course, that we created as part of the campaign to give a little bit of a interesting voice to water quality pollution. Jason and I's slogan is Save the River Unicorn. He is very sensitive to sedimentation, trash, and the like. These have been just a collection of some of the whimsical things that I've done for education and outreach. And I never pass up the opportunity to show a picture of me dressed up as a unicorn, so I hope you enjoy that. Lastly, I would like to say thank you. Not only has the town of Farragut been an amazing sponsor to work for, but it has been an amazingly incredible community in which to live. I've gone to a lot of cool places, everywhere from Yosemite to Lake Tahoe, San Francisco, all up and down the West Coast, all around in my AmeriCorps experience. But there's a certain void that my service here in Knox County, and specifically the town of Farragut, that has touched me in a way that none of these other adventures have. And I credit all of that to the amazing people that I've got to work with. There's not a single person that I've worked with here that I haven't liked. I've truly enjoyed all the time that I've got to spend with the town of Farragut staff and volunteers. Specifically, Jason, for being a spectacular boss in all of this. John and Brian for managing the AmeriCorps end of things. Daryl for looking over me in the engineering office. Teresa for having to share an office space with me. Everyone, Scott, Greg, and Chris from the engineering office, Parks and Leisure, everyone has been an absolute pleasure to work with. And if I could stay here and serve with you some more, I definitely would, because my time here has meant so much to me, obviously by the crack in my voice. Thank you so much for giving me a wonderful and meaningful service here with you. Thank you.
So I assume that you'll be back.
I will be one day. My plan is to return back to Knoxville. I'm off to another service position after this year. So
Tell them where you're going to be next year.
I will not be on the East Coast anymore, much to my mother's disappointment. I will be in Nome, Alaska, doing a communications position with a local radio station up there. So wish me luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank
But
you.
now that makes me confident that you'll be back. Should I do this proclamation now? This is a proclamation I just signed. It's for the National League of Cities Small Cities Month. And by the way, we have our vice mayor in North Carolina at a meeting of small cities right now. Whereas small cities and towns under 50,000 population are the home to millions of Americans and constitute the vast majority of municipalities across the United States. And whereas small cities and towns strive to strengthen their communities through the provision of services and programs to improve the quality of life for all citizens, and whereas the federal government is an essential partner in the success of small cities and towns and must be encouraged to continue to support programs and legislation that strengthen small communities, and whereas state governments are partners in the success of small cities and towns and must be encouraged to support key programs and legislation that strengthen communities. Whereas organizations, businesses, and citizens are partners in the success of small cities and towns and must be encouraged to grow their efforts to make small communities a viable choice for people to live in. And whereas during the challenging economic times, the need for renewed intergovernmental partnership to support essential public services is more important than ever to ensure the safety and growth of small-town America. And whereas the National League of Cities President and Small Cities Council of the National League of Cities have declared June 2012 as Small Cities Month, now therefore the Board of Mayor and Aldermen of the town of Farragut do hereby proclaim June 2012 as Small Cities Month and encourages President Obama, Congress, state governments, organizations, businesses, and all citizens to recognize this event and to work together on this day and throughout the year to invest in small cities and towns to better the lives of all citizens. We don't vote on this, do we? I mentioned that DOT is often North Carolina at this small city's NLC meeting. Some of us attended this week at the Knoxville Convention Center, the annual state Tennessee Municipal League convention, and it was convenient since we live here, so we didn't have to travel, and it was a nice conference as usual, although the attendance seemed to be down some. Don't know why. Next item is Citizens Forum. Do we have anybody?
No, sir.
Okay. Next item is approval of minutes from May 24th, 2012.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Now we go to resolution and ordinances. Resolution 2012-06 fee schedule.
Yes, sir. Beginning last year, we compiled a list of all the fees for the town of Farragut into one schedule. And so beginning this year will be we will start the updating of those fees with each budget cycle. The resolution 2012-06 establishes a general fee schedule for fiscal year 2013, setting the necessary fees for all town services and collections of town accounts and expenditures, including but not limited to the application, filing, license, and permit fees. Whereas it is the desire of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen to consolidate all fees and adopt them by this resolution, now be it resolved by the Town of Farragut Board of Mayor and Aldermen that all fees are hereby adopted as listed in the attached schedule.
Approve. Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Next item is resolution 2012-07 LPRF grant.
Good evening. We are asking your approval tonight of a resolution that says that the town of Farragut is wishing to apply for a 2012 local Parks and Recreation Fund matching grant from the state of Tennessee in the amount of $122,000 for the total project, $61,000 to be provided by the state of Tennessee, and $61,000 to be provided by the town of Farragut Capital Investment Plan budget. And the town of Farragut would use this money to renovate field number 2 at Mayor Bob Leonard Park. This is a multi-use rectangular field that was built just about 20 years ago, a little shy of 20 years ago. It was built to drain on a slant, and it does not do that. It does not drain. We do not have drains on all sides of the field. It was not built as a traditional crown or turtle type of construction that we use nowadays. It wasn't unusual at the time when this was built. This is the only field that we have at the town of Farragut in this park that hasn't had reconstruction that's this age. So this would allow us to come in and put cross drains, a new drainage system, new irrigation, new sod, Bermuda sod, and also add some loops to our trail that will get us into what are the requirements of the ADA accessibility laws now. You have any questions?
What are we doing? Are we going to sod that? Are we going to seed it?
Sod it.
Okay. And we've got it's about a 350 by 175 foot field, right? Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to scrape it, recrown it.
Right.
We're adding a French drain around it.
Well, no, we're adding cross drains. That's what those are, and this is a newer way that the fields are being constructed now, so it will wick the water to the sides and to the drains.
Pipe
right.
Ditched in across the
well,
field.
It's actually gravel, yeah, and piping.
So it's slotted pipe bedded in gravel.
Mm-hmm.
And how much are we allocating for that?
We've got 100,000 in our budget, in our CIP budget. We're asking the state, the projection for the cost right now is 122,000. We're asking the state for a 50% match, which is their maximum. So it'd be 61,000 cost to us and 61,000 cost to the state with the local Parks and Recreation Fund.
Thank you.
Chances of receiving that?
Well, we've had really good history there. They have changed the scoring system. So because we actually have the rectangular fields, we will lose some points on that. We are a benchmark community, which helps us a little bit. Maybe that'll level it out. I don't know. It's hard to tell where you're going to fall in that. But it's a little bit tougher than it used to be. But it's worth trying. For 61,000, we'll try.
Track record. We've done well.
Yeah.
Thank you for your efforts. Motion to approve?
Second.
Say aye.
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 Thank you.
All right, the next item is second reading, ordinance 12-09, fiscal year 2013, budget for the general state street aid, capital investment program, equipment, insurance, and beautification funds.
Thank you, Mayor. This is an update for you from first reading where the board approved with some different changes to the budget based on what we had presented to you at first reading in May. The first slide you're going to see, we actually received some state shared revenue, an increase in our state shared revenues from the state from $104.93 to $106.25. With our population, that's around $27,000 in additional revenue. We have not budgeted for that in our total revenues just because we won't really receive all of that till the very last month of the fiscal year. So we'll just, if we do get excess funds, we'll be able to rebudget those in the following fiscal year. So I did want to make sure everybody was aware that those numbers had come in from the state. With our revenue-wise then, we're looking at total proposed revenue still of $7,519,833 in revenue. For our expenditures, we talked to the board about a change in our health insurance coverage, going to an HRA and some different changes with that, also increasing some of the drug benefits that we have for prescriptions. And so with those changes, everything you see in yellow has decreased by a total of $92,139 to bring down our total cost to $6,210,195 for our expenditures in this next fiscal year proposed for FY13. There's one item that is actually shifting from an estimated end of year in fiscal year 12 to actually proposed fiscal year 13, and that's our land use study that we're doing right now. We budgeted roughly $108,000 for that in this year's budget. We obviously will not finish that in this year's budget, so we've had to reallocate that money, and basically we were showing that we were going to spend it all in this fiscal year. So we've just made that a change. It's just a wash between one year to the next, but that does give you your total amounts of $6.2 million in expenditures for next year. For the community grants as well, as the board had voted on at the last meeting, the monies for the Knox Area Transit has been deleted, and those dollars have been forwarded then to the schools. And you can see on the next slide that each school will now receive $22,000 with those additional funds instead of the $10,000 that has been in our budgets in years past. For the CIP, we had one item that came up between first reading and second reading that I've been talking to the engineering department about, and that is we continue to buy right-of-way along Everett Road. That's a future project that is many years out, but if we have an ongoing offer out there to residents, if they want to go ahead and sell the right-of-way, we'll go ahead and buy it from them at this time. So we have added $100,000 in next year's budget to buy right-of-way along the Everett Road right-of-way length. And if you look at the expenditures on the next slide, what we've done to make sure the cost did not increase is actually take $100,000 from the land acquisition line item and place that in money for the right-of-way acquisition. Land acquisition could go for both, but since we already knew the project was out there, we went ahead and pulled the money from it to place in the right-of-way fund. Also, the Greenway at Willow Creek and along Kingston Pike there, we've moved that up from FY14 to FY13 as the board requested at the last meeting. So that's going to, again, move also the revenues up for those 2 years. So the next year we'll have a total funding sources of $6.38 million, total expenditures of $6.271 million, and our transfer from the general fund will remain at $2.5 million as we proposed in the original first reading of the budget to the board. And with that, those are all the changes that we have made from first reading to second reading, and I'll be glad to try to answer any questions that the board may have. Also, Ms. Myers just informed me that we do have 2 speakers that would like to speak on this item as well whenever the board's ready for them.
Going back to page 2, Mr. Smoker, excuse me, attachment B, if we can, Ms. Myers, if you can scroll us back to attachment B. Okay.
Yes, sir.
I'm looking at some of the increased proposed expenditures in our budget, and some of them I understand, some of them I don't. I'm looking at ones that have Parks and Leisure Services. We're jumping up 148,000 over 779, which is pretty significant. Is Ms. Stool here? What are we? What's happening there? I know we have more parks. We have McPhee Park Phase 2. We have more.
Well, Alderman, if you look at the budgeted number from FY12, it was actually $859,000. We estimated $779,000 expenditure this year. Some things don't get done throughout the year, and that's a typical thing that we run into. And so you have to re-budget for them in the next fiscal year. We also have health insurance costs. Well, excuse me, not health insurance. We have retirement costs and personnel costs that go up, and that's a larger department that we have for the town in general. We also have added monies for public relations in that line as well. And I believe there was one other item. Right, shade structure at McPhee Park as well to give some shade for the splash pad area. So all those items have caused that number to go up from the budgeted number around $70,000.
Okay, and then community development. We're jumping from a budget of 782 to 858, estimated 690 in 2011-2012. That's a 24% increase over what we've estimated it to be. What's going on there? Are we having a sudden rash of development? What's
well, again, that's the as I mentioned a minute ago, that the Winston and Associates contract that we have for the land use plan, $67,000 of that is getting moved to the proposed FY13 budget, so it's decreasing fiscal year 12 by that number and increasing it by that same amount in FY13. So that's one item. There's also the architectural design consultant that is in there is $80,000 as well. So those 2 items are the largest items of why. That's a professional service, one-time fee or a one-time charge that hopefully we can get done, and then our budget would then go back down. But the professional services, those items that we use for that does tend to drive your cost and make it look like it goes up a lot in 1 year when our budget is not a large budget. So that is why some of those in community development are increasing next year.
okay? And Public Works, there's a pretty good jump in that too.
Again, Public Works I know is going to be, if we go from budgeted number of $1,667 million to $1,7 million, most of that's going to be personnel related. They are the largest department that we have in town based on new retirement and merit increase for next year. There's also, we've put additional dollars in Public Works for signage. We have the new reflectivity standards that we are going to start having to, there's no timelines anymore for it, but what we're trying to do is put enough money in the budget to fix 4 or 5 subdivisions at a time. You don't want to just go put those brand new bright signs on one street and then not have them on another. So we're trying to get all the subdivision that we can done at once, and we're going to start in the southwest quadrant of town and kind of work our way around. So that's another, I think, $12,000 additional dollars that we've put in for signage that we haven't had in the past either.
How are we assigning priority for that?
We've been trying to go by quadrant, and so we'd start in the southwest quadrant of town and kind of work our way around. But if we have signage that we see in some subdivisions that is really old and needs to be updated, then we'll certainly hit that first if we need to. We haven't got that point yet, but we certainly will this year on the prioritization of that.
Are you saying we're paying for the replacements?
We would be, yes, sir. That's our requirement. Obviously, we don't have to do it in a certain time period like we were going to have to do it, but we do need to at least have a game plan.
Subdivision signs.
Correct. And stop signs and yield signs and all the other signs that we have to do as well along our right-of-ways. So there's a few, Bud, that we don't have to worry about. All the blue signs that you see will have to be replaced.
All of the signs that we maintain, I think, is probably the best way to describe it.
Right.
So what are we going to do with the old signs we take down?
Scrap.
We're just going to dump them in the recycle bin? Why don't we sell them? Why don't we sell them to the people who live on those streets? I bet people would like to have them. I bet we get more than we get for recycling. Little bit of Farragut Town history there.
Go to the highest bidder. We could we could do all sorts of things.
If we had a
with it.
Smith Road or Grigsby Chapel. Yeah, I mean, you can bid them. You might get people into bidding wars on them.
Yeah.
Might be able to pay for the project that way. They may be worth more than the new ones.
That's a good point.
I'd like to point out that the engineering budget dropped this year. We're just that good.
Thank you, Darrell.
All right. Are we going to vote on the budget?
Well, we have two speakers.
Two speakers.
Our first speaker is Mark Calvert. He's at 324 Farragut Crossing Drive.
Good evening. I've come here to speak on the possibility of restoring funding for the Farragut Express bus and appreciate your time in having me here. As was said, my name is Mark Calvert and I live at 324 Farragut Crossing Drive. I've been riding the 102X Farragut Express bus for the last 11 years. I've seen the ridership over the last decade range from about half a dozen riders on either of the two morning buses to standing room only crowds of 25 or more riders each day on each of the two morning buses. For the first several years that I rode the Farragut Express, Cat was having trouble with equipment maintenance. The bus would break down on the freeway and 1 or 2 times each month for a while. Yet most of the riders continued to ride the bus. That's because riding the bus is not about personal convenience. It's about doing something that's good for the environment and good for the community. Since those first several years of the last decade, CAT has upgraded the buses and improved its maintenance practices so that now it's probably been 6 or 9 months since we've had a breakdown, on that particular run at least. For this, I would like to thank CAT. And for the past funding of the Farragut Express, I would like to thank the town of Farragut. As the town once again proposes cutting funding for the Farragut Express bus, I earnestly ask you to reconsider. It seems to me that too much of the discussion that I've read or heard about seems to view the Farragut Express bus as benefiting only those 20 particular individuals who, on the average, on any given weekday, happen to ride the Farragut Express bus into Knoxville, or those 20 individuals who on that particular day happen to ride back to Farragut. As I pointed out in my email to the members of the board, it's not just the same 20 or 21 people who are riding on any particular day. I would guess that we have a group of at least 40 people who regularly ride the Farragut Express bus. But even that doesn't give the complete picture. We have riders who ride for only a few days while their car is in the shop. We have riders who've loaned their car to a child or to another relative, and then they ride the bus for however long they're without their car. We recently had a retired individual who was serving jury duty in downtown Knoxville, who for 2 weeks rode the Farragut Express bus to his jury duty and back. We have UT students who ride only on those days when they have classes. We have riders with summer jobs at UT or downtown who ride just for the summer. Also, I've seen 6 or 7 new riders on just the 7:15 bus, 7:15 in the morning bus, over the last 2 weeks who've only now learned about the Farragut Express bus and wanted to try it out. The bus truly does benefit many commuters and other folks who want to travel from Farragut to Knoxville and back, either regularly or occasionally. But the benefits of the Farragut Express bus go beyond just those who ride. On any given day, there's an average of 20 fewer cars sailing up and down I-40 between Farragut and Knoxville each morning, and 20 fewer cars each evening, thanks to the Farragut Express bus. This reduces the traffic and congestion on that very busy highway during peak commuting hours, to the benefit of all those who drive. This reduction in auto traffic also reduces the air pollution in Farragut, Knoxville, and all of Knox County, to the benefit of all local residents. I'm sure you're all aware of the air quality alerts that are being issued with alarming frequency for Knox County. I understand that over half of the air pollution in Knox County is due to mobile sources, primarily automobiles, contributing ground-level ozone. Ozone is, of course, a corrosive and reactive gas that harms the lungs and breathing passages of the people who breathe it, particularly on those air quality days when the concentrations are high. The American Lung Association gives Knox County a failing grade for ozone pollution, with 15 orange alerts during the last year. The primary way to have less ozone in Knox County is to have fewer cars driving in Knox County. The Farragut Express bus makes a great contribution in that regard. With an average of 20 to 21 fewer cars traveling each morning and 20 to 21 fewer cars traveling in the evening, represents 10,700 avoided car trips of 15 miles each. That's over 160,000 miles of car travel avoided in Knox County each year, which benefits the air that we all breathe. No matter how beautiful the aesthetics of the area, or how attractive the residential and commercial properties are, or how receptive or accommodating the community is to new businesses and new residents, Farragut will be at a disadvantage in attracting new residents and new businesses, and in keeping current residents and businesses if the air quality is regularly unhealthy. In addition to the air quality benefits, the availability of public transportation is itself a positive feature for new residents and businesses coming to Farragut. The availability of public transportation also has a positive influence on property values. I've been told this by people who work for banks and do evaluations of properties in connection with mortgage loans. And those benefits, of course, help the entire Farragut community. But, of course, the benefits of public transportation are not free. But the costs that CAT seeks from the town of Farragut, and indeed the operating costs of CAT as a whole, are in line with the costs of public transportation systems nationwide. The normal benchmark for funding public transportation systems involves the riders paying 20% of the cost of the transportation and the government paying 80% of the cost. CAT as a whole falls in this range, with a $20 million budget and 3.5 million person trips per year. Based on my math, that amounts to the government funding $5.71 per trip, and the typical CAT fare being $1.50. If you do the math, that works out to the rider paying a little over 20% of the cost of each ride, under 21%. By contrast, in asking for $40,000 funding from the town of Farragut for an annual average of 10,700 person trips, the town of Farragut has been asked to pay a lesser amount, $3.74 per person trip, whereas the typical Farragut Express bus passenger pays the standard fare, which is higher, of $2 per trip. That works out to over 34% of the combined costs being paid by the riders and less than 65% being paid by the town of Farragut. Even if you add to these figures the cost of the town of Farragut for renting the park and ride lot on Campbell Station Road, which I understand, I'm just going from memory, I couldn't find the number, to be about $16,000 per year, you still have the town paying only $5.23 per person trip and the average passenger paying $2, which ends up with the riders still paying over 27% of the cost versus the combined cost of the rider and the town. But I don't think it would be fair or accurate to add the cost of that Farragut Park and Ride lease payments to the cost of providing the Farragut bus service. The majority of the parking spaces in the parking lot are taken on a daily basis, at least Monday through Thursday, by ride sharers, carpoolers, van riders who commute in vans or private vehicles, and it's not taken by the people who ride the Farragut Express bus. Indeed, the shortage of available parking for bus riders at the bus stop has been a major reason why the Farragut Express bus has not been able to increase ridership again to the levels that it saw several years ago, when gas was cheaper, but we're having 25 or 30 people riding each day on each of those two buses. So I asked the board to consider imposing some sort of restriction on the use of the park and ride lot, so that all or most of the spaces are specifically set aside for bus riders. The ride sharers and van poolers have many more choices on where they can gather and how they can get together in their vehicles. They can meet in some of the largely vacant parking lots that are right across the street, across the 5-lane highway there. But the bus riders have no choice except to park at the bus stop or to be dropped off there. So wherever the bus stops, there needs to be dedicated parking for the bus riders, or the Farragut Express bus will never reach its past ridership or exceed it and meet its future potential. So I'm asking the board to continue the funding for the Farragut Express bus at the current $40,000 level. That will bring these benefits of improved air quality, as well as another commuting option for residents and businesses of Farragut, improving the desirability and value of the Farragut community for all Farragut residents. Thank you for your time and consideration, and I'll be happy to try to address any questions you have.
Well, Mr. Calvert, I want to thank you for your eloquent presentation regarding our public transportation. And as you know, I voted against defunding CAT, although I don't feel it's the most efficient option out there. It's the only option we have right now, and I was uncomfortable with defunding them with no warning and basically pulling the rug out from underneath a valuable service to the town and some of our citizens. And I had made a proposal that we reduce their funding by $5,000 and spend that money on our end, trying to increase ridership and seeing what we can do to promote the use of it. I appreciate your suggestion about the park and ride lot, because it really is. The intent is for it to be parking for the bus service, as I understand it. And when I audited that parking lot one day, I saw cars from Meigs County, Anderson County, Loudoun County, Blount County, 2 from Kentucky, 1 from Pennsylvania. And I mean, just all over the book out there. And I don't think those people were necessarily riding the bus. So
no, sir.
I think you made some very valid points, and I hope that the board will consider that, and that we might look at making some kind of a continuing commitment to CAT. Well, I think it might be good if we look at an alternative, something possibly the town could operate. But I appreciate your presentation.
Our next speaker is Russ Barber at 12,000 Butternut Lane.
Appreciate the opportunity to be here. I'm speaking for myself, but I'm also a member of the Town of Farragut Education Committee. And primarily, I wanted to thank the board for increasing the funding that's going to the schools. As we became very aware of the things that were going on in the schools and their needs, we very strongly supported an increase, and we hope that that will be able to continue in future years. There's one bit of information, and I may have missed it. I was understood, as I recall, looking at in addition to the increase to 22,000 for each of the schools, I believe there was something, and I understood there was going to be something both for the Farragut High School and Hardin Valley for an education funding, but I think I only saw the Farragut High School. Is that? Could you just clarify that for me?
Mr. Barber, are you talking about
Oh,
for the foundation?
There is one.
Right here.
Yeah, there is one for both Farragut High and for Hardin Valley Education Foundation of 10,000. And while I personally don't, I'm sure that would be very much appreciated, but myself and at least one other member of the committee just felt the board should recognize that there is a big difference between Farragut High School and Hardin Valley as far as the members of the community that attend those schools. Based on information I was given, there are only 166 students from Farragut that attend Hardin Valley. And, well, you know, I'm sure that they would appreciate that. That might be something to consider in the future as far as giving more preference to what the Farragut High School receives as opposed to Hardin Valley, recognizing the significantly larger number of students that live in Farragut that attend Farragut High School compared to Hardin Valley. But all of it is very much appreciated, and thank you very much.
One question on your point about the proportion of students in each school. Would you have us apply that same formula to every school in Farragut? Because a lot of Farragut school kids don't live in Farragut.
I was just given that number. Another member of the committee had provided that number to me just because of the great discrepancy. I don't think it, you know, I don't think you can overanalyze it, but I think in just comparing the high schools, there is a point to consider. I know I don't recommend doing a detailed analysis of the schools and how many are in Farragut, but it was such a big difference for the high schools. That was just something we thought the board might want to be aware of.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I did have a question for Mr. Smoke based on Mr. Calvert's comment. I know this has come up before about restricting that lot, and I wonder if you might share a bit about that discussion and the issues that presents.
We can't restrict the lot. It's a public facility, so you have to allow other people to park there for whatever. I mean, the park and ride is there for different uses, not just the bus, but also for people to share and carpool and do the different things like that. So we can't do that. We've tried numerous times to work with the businesses along Parkside Drive, and I know I've talked to Kat several times about that, as Gary has, Mr. Palmer as well. And it's difficult because none of the businesses want to try to allow or even give any of their spaces for people to park in, whether it be park and ride users or whether it be CAT bus users. So it's difficult finding another place for those people to go. We've contacted churches as well, and we're kind of getting the same thing. So we have 55 spaces. Obviously, some days they fill up very fast, and some days they don't. But we've been doing a study over the last 2 years regularly about the number of cars that come in there and also where they come from. And over half of the cars that come into our park and ride lot are not from Knox County. So we do know that we're right on the fringe somewhat of the county, but that's been very consistent over that 2-year period.
Where those people are going or what their relationship is from an employment standpoint?
We don't know for sure. I mean, we do know that TVA has a van that they do pick up several people from. I'm sure there are other entities as well that go downtown or Oak Ridge or wherever it may be. So we do not know for sure at this time. But one thing we can't do is just limit who is allowed to use the park and ride lot.
Other point, this came up last year in particular, because I had shared it as well, about would CAT be willing to take less? And I wonder if you could address that.
I think we'd have to ask Kat that question. We've talked to them. Certainly, they have their own budget and everything else they have to consider. Certainly, if the board wanted to float an idea out there about a number, we could certainly ask them and see if they would be amenable to it. I think in years past, it's been if we could at least give this much, that they would be willing to continue the route. I think if you go down any, that may be something that they're not willing to do. I just don't know.
David, who says and what law or what ordinance says that if we lease a piece of property, designate its purpose, that we can't designate who uses it or who or we can't reserve spaces for certain use or something like that? We can designate handicap spots. We can designate. I know at the courthouse there's reserved for the judge, reserved for this, reserved for that, and so why can't we reserve it for cat riders?
I believe we received grant funding for that park and ride lot to build it several years ago, and part of that requirement is that it's open for use for all the public. And so because we received dollars for it, we have to abide by those rules.
That reminds me of the old adage, if you don't want government handcuffs, don't put your hands out.
That would be a very good point on this one.
Well, we've had an impassioned plea to save the CAT bus funding, and I think if we can, we were looking at spending $750,000 to put decorative lighting in. We've pulled that out of the budget. I think that we owe these people and this service some sort of continuation, and I would make a motion once more that we preserve funding for the CAT bus, but that we also take a small percentage of it to see if we can't maximize the ridership on our end. And so I make that motion that we restore the $40,000 with $35,000 going to CAT, $5,000 retaining in our budget to use to promote the service.
Guys, for the lack of a second, but I would suggest that what's the deadline for us passing this budget?
We need to pass the budget by July 1st. So
Okay.
Our next meeting, June 28th, we could certainly, if you had something that you needed to wait on, then we could wait till then to
Well,
do
it
anything.
occurs to me we have the very bare minimum number of people here to vote on anything. And if we're going to take this up with any degree of diligence, then I think we ought to have more of our group here. We're dealing with just the Three Musketeers today.
I certainly feel like it bears some more discussion, and I would encourage that.
But set the 26th, 28th as the drop dead date.
It would have to be, but you can certainly defer the budget for another 2 weeks if the board feels like they need another couple of weeks to have everybody here, then we can do that.
Let's do
Deference to
that.
Alderman Markley's comment, I would like to see the staff follow up with CAT and just basically find out, we offered 20,000, what would they say? Let's try to, make an
Well,
offer.
Cindy
or at least an
McGinnis is
opportunity.
here. She can speak to that.
Good evening, Mayor and Alderman. I am Cindy McGinnis. I'm the General Manager of CAT. The request that we've made for the past several years from the town of Farragut for the operation of the deficit of the Farragut 102X Express has been $80,000, and that's based on costs that aren't covered by grants that we receive or fare box revenues. And the town of Farragut has been contributing $40,000 per year, and ultimately it would be up to the city of Knoxville to agree to pay more of the deficit share for the operation of the town of Farragut. And I really wouldn't advise cutting any more trips. That's how we save money, is we cut service. And the last time we cut trips, we lost ridership. And if we would cut trips again to save money, I fear we would even further degrade the route. At some point, you might even want to consider other options beside a full 35-foot bus, or in some cases, the smaller cutaway bus, providing service on this route, such as van pools or car sharing. Though I know our group of passengers are very loyal to the bus. There's just something about being able to get on a bus and not worrying about talking to the person next to you and reading your newspaper, and it's a transit route, and it's very expensive, and it's sometimes transit is not the best solution for few people. But you do have a very dedicated group of riders here, and it is very much appreciated by the riders. So from a pure budgetary standpoint, I think suggesting less funding might not do the route much good at this point. And I think the city of Knoxville has appreciated and valued the route too, and $40,000 I think is pretty much the happy medium. Where we go from there, I really can't speak to, other than I know it is financially more out of balance than it already is.
Ms. McGinnis, can I ask you what the capacity of that bus is? How many seats?
A 35-foot bus has 29 passenger seats, and sometimes we put cutaways on those runs too.
What's a cutaway?
It's a smaller vehicle, about a 22-passenger vehicle.
All right. And Mr. Calvert said that sometimes that we're seeing standing room only. Is that? Can you address that? Or what kind of ridership are we actually seeing on the buses?
We haven't seen standing room only in quite some time. The fuel crunch in 2008 is what precipitated all of the funding outreach requests by the city of Knoxville in the first place, because fuel was so high, and that's when we had the standing room only crowds.
So what kind of ridership are we seeing right now, would you say, percentage?
Excuse me. The way we collect our statistics is passengers per hour, passengers per mile. We're seeing 5 passengers per hour, 0.19 passengers per mile. It's not a high productivity route. It is an express route, and you would expect some lower ridership statistics because you're not picking up as many people along the way. And that's why you get away with charging a higher fare, too, which the Farragut passengers have been willing to pay. So,
Mr. Calvert, how many people are you seeing on the bus on any given day? Divided by 4 trips, right?
there are
Okay.
5 trips.
So we're not having exactly saturation. So it really looks like it'd be beneficial if we have this and we're spending this money. I don't think a whole lot of people really know about it. I really don't. I don't think there's nothing done on the town's part to promote it. If you know about it, you hear about it, you kind of sort of. Nobody really knows how it works, I don't think. I mean, my guess would be if you were to do a poll in the town, maybe one person in 10 would have a clue about how it really works. I think we're going to do it. We're going to spend money on it. We have been spending money on it. We ought to see if we can't get that ridership up and really make this thing work. So once again, I think we need to look at this. I think it is a valuable service, and I see it as a benefit to the community and something I'd like to retain if there's any way we can. And if we're going to do it, let's do it right and see if we can't get 10 people riding that bus every day, or 15, or 29. would be
I would
great.
piggyback on the previous discussion that sometimes the success of the route has been its downfall. If people can't park in that parking lot and catch the bus, they're going to give up. And
I
the
just bet we
parking
can find a
situation-
solution to that. I just bet we can. We got a lot of
We've-
smart
we've-
people in this
both
town.
CAT staff and Farragut staff has spent a pretty good amount of time on that issue. I think it would almost involve locating more property to actually purchase and designate for that purpose, and I don't know that that's in your long-range goals or not. It's a huge problem because
I bet it's something we could assign the Farragut Business Alliance and the West Knox Chamber, and get some corporate partners on here. I feel confident we can find people that will support this, and I think we can make it work. But we got to put a little muscle behind it. We got to
I
want to do
appreciate
it.
that enthusiasm, and we're happy to work with you any way we can.
Ask this, over the period of, say, the last year and a half, has the ridership changed at all, or has it been pretty
Ridership
steady?
is increasing. Year-to-date, ridership is up 12% over what it was last year. In the month of May, this year's up 5% over May of last year. So the ridership is inching up,
On that
even though
route.
fuel prices are going down. So it's funny what drives ridership on the Farragut
Well,
Express
the
route.
fuel prices have been higher than they are now. They've been close to $4, as you know.
Right.
I would have thought it would shoot up then.
It did back in 2008 when fuel was close to $4, but it
Well, it's been recently close to $4.
You have a comment, Mr. Calvert?
and
Yeah,
I
I think-
understand. Oh, excuse me, they have to get there very early too.
And I think that with some public relations work, we could encourage the ride sharers to find another place, and I'm sure there are other places, and I mean even parking at each other's homes or something like that. Make room for the cat riders, and I think what we need here is a PR campaign and make this thing work.
Well, I'm willing to discuss it some more, but we got a 2-week deadline.
So when are we going to discuss it? At our next meeting, or do we want to have a meeting in between?
Oh, staff can take the next couple of weeks, get with Kat to find out if there's any other opportunities there. Get a report together for the board so you have a good, thorough idea of everything we've been doing over the last year or so, and also just the statistics that we all have to give you. And then the board can just make your own decision of whether or not you want to continue the Cat ride, if you want to try to do something else with parking, how much you want to do, things like that. So certainly if we defer for a couple of weeks, I think that gives us enough time to get enough information to you to make an informed decision.
All right, could I invite staff also to have a meeting with our strategic partners at the Farragut Business Alliance and the West Knox Chamber of Commerce, and invite them to look for some solutions from their membership. These
I'll be
people
glad to sit down and talk to
that we
them.
fund and who have the best interests of the town at heart, and they have resources in the business community, and I bet we can find a solution.
I'll be glad to touch base with both those groups and see what we can come up with.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we're tabling the approval of the budget the next time. So the next items are business items, and the first is approval of FY 2013 committee appointments.
Okay, you will have actually two corrections or additions, I guess. On your long sheets, look like this. Under the Museum Advisory Board, mark out Jack Taylor. His term actually ends in 2013.
Oh,
And then we need to add a 9th position, which is just for a 1-year term, to fill someone who has resigned from the committee. So if you want, we can appoint all these people where they need to go and just do one big approval. I think that's how we've done it in the past. So if you want to, we'll start with Arts Council. It's an unlimited position committee, and we have 8 applicants, and we have room for all 8 applicants.
now the asterisk means
That they're currently on that committee.
all right.
I had a question. Ms. Hammond, on reading her application, it seemed as if she applied for the Beautification Committee.
She did. We had, I want to say 4. Start with Beverly Hammond, Kimberly Hollis, Lisa Reeves, and I believe Nancy Wentz, or maybe Kim Arms. All of those people had also applied for the Beautification Committee. I can't speak tonight. And so when I noticed that we only had 4 positions available, and the 4 that are currently on that committee had applied, I contacted those to see if they would be willing to serve on the Arts Council, and they gladly said they would serve on that committee. So that's why you probably see a beautification on their application, and we've marked through that.
Thank you.
So what you're saying is that we could just blanket approve all of these, and it fits the numbers and everything?
Yes, and then we'll come through and we'll just, I guess essentially nominate the people for those positions, then we'll come through and just approve the whole thing with a motion.
Well, I've looked through it, and they all look well credentialed, and I didn't see anybody that caused me any concern, so I'd make a motion that we approve the applicants as presented.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Beautification Committee, we have 4 positions available for a 2-year term. We have 4 existing members that have reapplied for that position. Jeannie Stowe has applied for that, but she's also applied for the VRB. So if you do not appoint her to the Beautification Committee, she does fit in with the VRB committee. She didn't indicate which one.
Okay, never mind.
If you want, you don't have to make a motion on these. You just suggest it, and then we'll just do a big motion at the end. Is everybody good with those 4, the existing ones? Okay. To the Museum Advisory Board, there are 8 2-year positions available. Mr. Steve Stowe has also applied for the Stormwater. And then if you take out Jack Taylor, because I, in error, put his name in there, we have 8 that can be for a 2-year term, and then we need to appoint 1 person to a 1-year term.
Well, I'd move that we, this makes it right if we approve Mr. Stowe for the Stormwater Board. That leaves us 8 positions, which is what we have available, and approve the remaining applicants.
Correct. Do you want to put Mr. Stowe for the 1-year term?
To Stormwater?
No, for the Museum Advisory Committee.
Well, I don't think we have room for.
Yeah, take out Jack Taylor.
I did, and I think we've got 9 people.
Correct, because you're adding another position down there. Number 9 would be your 1-year term.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So Steve Stowe for the 1-year term?
Yes.
Okay, moving to the Parks and Athletics, we have 5 positions available, 4 applicants, and 2 of them are returning or existing members. All right, Personnel Committee, we have 3 positions available, 3 applicants, and 1 is a returning member.
What are we doing to run them off?
Retirement? I don't know. I think they've served their time.
Glad we have some volunteers.
That's right.
Sounds good.
Our BZA, we have Cleve Porter, and he's also currently on the committee. And that's for a 5-year term. Plumbing, Gas, and Mechanical, we have 2 positions available. There are 3-year terms, and we have 2 existing members that have reapplied for that. The VRB, we have 3 positions available, for 2-year terms, and we have 2 applicants, and one is a returning member, so we still have 1 position on that committee that is vacant. Moving to the stormwater, we have, this one's a particular committee that has to have specialists on it. We need a water quality specialist, plant specialist, and 2 at-large members. And Debbie Frazier is currently on the committee. She's an at-large member. And Steve Stowe, he's a new applicant, and he would qualify for the water quality position, leaving us the plant specialist and 1 at-large member to find volunteers for those. In the school liaison committee, we have 3 positions available for 2-year terms, 3 applicants, and 2 are returning members.
The stormwater advisory, since that is kind of a special area, would that be something we would be able to promote or advertise or do something special for that?
Yeah, Jason's aware of those, and he's put his feelers out for different people in the community that he has contacts with as well.
How many available positions do we have?
In the stormwater,
Yes.
we'll have 2. We'll have an at-large member that we need and a plant specialist.
Is that 3?
Well, we have a total of 4 available, and we have 2 applicants. You have 2 remaining vacant, which is the plant specialist and the at-large member.
Okay.
And that's all of your committee members.
So we're,
Motion to approve?
all right.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, they're all appointed.
Mayor, I'll go ahead and introduce these as we go, and I guess we can just kind of do them in a block of 4. The next 4 items, these are all annual maintenance contracts. Each year we request proposals from area contractors that provide the maintenance for our roadways, pavement marking, guardrail maintenance, and signal maintenance. Now, those are all some pretty specialized contracts, and so there's not an awful lot of competition in the area, but I'm happy to say that we have had, we have some competition this year. I'll just walk through each one of them. The first contract is contract 2013-01. That's the annual road maintenance contract. We received proposals from 2 contractors on June 5th. One from J.G. Mullins Construction and one for Pavement Restoration Incorporated. I've tabulated the unit prices from the 2 proposals just after my memo. For the most part, J.G. Mullins Construction their unit prices are lower, and with that in mind, and given the fact that we've had a very good relationship with J.G. Mullins in the past, staff recommends award to J.G. Mullins Construction, contract 2013-01.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Next item is approval of bids for contract 2013-02, the installation of pavement markings. This year we received 2 proposals, one from Volunteer Highway Supply and the other from Superior Pavement Marking. Tabulation for that is on the next page. I think it's safe to say that Volunteer Highway, who currently has our contract currently, their unit prices were lower than Superior's, and in fact are actually lower than volunteer, and they've had our contract for the last few years. This year's unit prices are lower than last year's and the year before that. And we're very pleased with that. Staff recommends award of contract to Volunteer Highway Supply or contract 2013-02.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Aye.
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 Next item is contract 2013-03, the annual guardrail maintenance. We received two proposals on June 5th, one from Tennessee Guardrail and one from Lou Incorporated. Tennessee Guardrail's unit prices are for the most part lower than Lou's, and we have a very good relationship working with Tennessee Guardrail for the past several years. Staff recommends award of the contract 2013-03 to Tennessee Guardrail.
Section got crunched on one, and it was very prompt.
We actually
within a
got both
week,
ends on that one. Yes, they replaced that.
very prompt. I mean, it was, within a few days. I mean, or within a week.
Not sure how it got hit on the
Never heard about anything, but I just saw the
on
results.
the trailing end, but
Yeah.
it did.
Yeah, it was crunched pretty good. Well, I did a good job. It was quick. Motion to approve.
Second.
Say aye.
Aye.
The last item is contract 2013-04, the annual signal maintenance contract. We received only one proposal on this one from Progression Electric. We've tabulated their unit prices and shown we've tabulated against the 2012 and the 2011 unit prices. Comparing this year with last year, this current year with the next year, they have two unit prices that have gone up. Everything else has remained the same. We're very pleased with their performance, and their unit prices are in keeping with TDOT average prices. So staff recommends award of contract 2013-04 to Progression Electric.
Second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Do they do the light changes? I mean the bulbs?
No, Public Works
I thought
typically handles the bulbs.
So they're maintaining the switch boxes.
All of the controllers, all of the equipment inside the boxes, right?
Okay.
And the detectors.
I was wondering, Darrell, what's a loop saw?
A loop saw?
Yeah, we pay
Well,
$6.50 an hour or a lineal foot for a loop saw. We be sawing loops. How many feet of loops do we saw in a year?
we do saw a few loops in a year,
What
actually.
is a loop?
A loop is a detector loop for, you can see where the loops are in the asphalt.
They just have to cut a groove, lay the
They
wire
cut a
in,
groove
patch it.
and lay that, the detector loop into it.
Okay, just curious. Thanks. I'd like to know what we're paying for.
You were just checking, weren't you? Just to
I just
see
wanted
if
to see
I
if you
knew.
knew what you were talking about.
You learn something every day. There you go.
Mayor, I'm pleased to report that for the 20th consecutive year, the town of Farragut has received the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. This award is the highest award that any town can receive for transparency, accounting, standards, audit, everything that you want to have in a financial report that the public can easily read and understand. And so the main person that's responsible for that is our town recorder, Allison Myers, and she has done a phenomenal job in keeping us with this award and keeping our town finances where they need to be so that we have an excellent record that can easily be shown to the public. So with that, I wanted to present this to Ms. Myers tonight, and hopefully she'll put it somewhere prominent at Town Hall.
So how many of the 20 years are you? Seven. So you were about 14 then.
Got a long way to go.
The award's given by the Government Finance Officers Association, and they're a little takes a little time to get updated on the statistics. But 2 years ago, there was only 27 cities in the state of Tennessee that received this award out of 300 and some odd cities. Not all cities have to do it. You're not required to do it, but it does show that you go above and beyond when it comes to trying to make sure that your finances are very transparent and you do a good job of making that readily available. So.
Many have done it 20 years in a row.
That's an even probably better statistics. I don't know that one, Mayor. That's a good question. Mayor, also wanted to report tonight that we do have our land use planning public forum. Our next one is scheduled for Tuesday, June the 26th at 6 p.m. We'll have a kind of an open workshop, and then 7 p.m. is the actual open meeting for that. We're going to be talking about historic preservation, the land use in general, the town center or downtown district, what the viability of that is, and also some of our aging shopping centers and what can we do to try to revitalize those. So we certainly encourage the public to come to those meetings, and hopefully we can get a good crowd there. And with that, that's all I have to report tonight.
Tom is not here, so we are adjourned.